Okay, so for number one, I know that the video didn't show proper audio before, so hopefully this makes up for it. If there's any background noise, you guys are just gonna have to deal with it, because I'm at college. Okay, so for number one, which proportion is correct? That's going to be C, 1/2 over 3/6, because if you try to reduce down each and every fraction, you would see that the only things that actually match up would be 1/2 and 3/6, because if you reduce 3/6 into its lowest form, it would equal 1/2, and 1/2 obviously equals 1/2. Which pair of expressions is equivalent to each other? Now, for exponents, we need to realize that the coefficient is what you are actually going to multiply itself by, and the power tells you how many times you're going to multiply that coefficient by. So for example, the correct answer would be C, 4 to the 5th power, and we are multiplying 4 by itself 5 times. So 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. 3 to the 2nd power does not look like 2 being multiplied by itself 3 times. It should look like 3 being multiplied by itself twice, so 3 times 3. Same thing for 4 to the 6th power. It's been switched around, so you can't have that as an answer. And the second one, you just didn't multiply it, the last one, 8 to the 8th power, you just didn't multiply it enough. They only multiplied it 6 times, it should be 8. Okay, let's see what else to do. 3. So 7 plus x equals 84. So what value of x makes the equation true? What you would do here is you would always have to isolate the x. Now this was a simple pre-algebraic equation where you have to find the value of x. What you would do is subtract 7 from both sides and get 77. So x equals 77. X equals 77, and that's because since there is no negative sign here, this automatically means it's a positive, so you do whatever the inverse of that operation is telling you to do. So it would be subtracting 7, and you subtract 7 from that side. I'm sorry if this is going really fast, I just need to make sure you get all this information before your exam, so you guys are well prepared for it. Now, what value is equivalent to the absolute value of -1 over 4? So an absolute value does not mean the direction, it just means the distance away from 0. So a direction is when you have a positive or negative because it tells you to the left or to the right of where the number would lie on a number line. But absolute value just is asking you for the distance away from 0 it is. It does not matter about the direction. So what you do for absolute value is just take away that negative or positive sign and you will get 1/4. What is the area of the figure drawn on the coordinate plane below? Okay, so sorry about that, my mic cut out, but basically what you would do for any type of problem like this where you need to find the area and they give you 1 square unit, you can count all the boxes inside this shape because it's not a normal shape, or what you can do is divide them up into different rectangles or shapes that you know how to calculate the area for. What I did here was I divided it up into 3 separate rectangles, that's 1 square, and 3 separate and 2 other rectangles. So this side over here is 7, this side over here is 7, this side over here is 2 units, this side over here is 5 units, this over here is 3 square units, and this over here is 4 square units. So what I would do would basically just add up all of the areas of these shapes together. So as you can see, I did 2 times 5 equals 10, 7 times 7 equals 49, and 3 times 4 equals 12. I did this because area for rectangles and squares are length times width. And then when I add them all together, it would be 71 units squared. What property is shown in the equation below? So this is something that we didn't quite go over extensively, but basically this property is 6 times 0 equals 0. It's telling you that anything times 0 would equal 0, and that's a zero property of multiplication. What is the name of the line segment AB on the circle below? So this is something that you also don't need to know because we are not going over it this year in this unit. So this is, though, a chord. A diameter would be something that cuts the circle in half all the way, and a radius would be something that cuts the circle halfway through, so not fully. And a chord is basically 2 radii. An arc is basically 2 radii, and this would be your arc. And a chord is just a line that intersects the circle fully, but it's not in the middle. So 8. Mary picks 15 flowers from her garden. If 3 out of 5 of these flowers are yellow, how many flowers does Mary pick? There's 2 types of ways that you can do it. You can definitely have 3 rows of flowers, 5 flowers, and then circle in 3 and shade in 3 on each row, which would give you 9 right over here. What you can do also is a proportion, so you would have x over 15, which equals 3 over 5, and which would equal 45 equals 5x, and we also always have to make sure that we isolate the x. So what we would do is we would divide this by 5, both sides by 5, because we always have to do the opposite operation. Having a variable and a coefficient next to each other means multiplication, so what we do is we divide, and then we have 9 equals x, like right over here, and that would be our answer. Students auditioning for a singing contest are given a list of 7 rock songs and 5 country songs. If each student must pick 1 song of each, 1 rock song and 1 country song, how many different song combinations can each student pick? This is a probability question, and we did not go over this. You're going to go over it in 7th grade, but there is a formula for this. But since this is only 1 rock song and 1 country song, what you can do is just do 7 times 5. Which equals 35. Now, in any other problem, if it was 2 rock songs and 1 country song, 3 rock songs and 1 country song, or 3 and 5, whatever the number is, if it's not 1 and 1, you cannot just multiply to find the answer. You would actually have to use a proper formula. Okay, so for question number 10, 2 vertices of a right triangle are shown on the coordinate plane below. So we have vertices are basically our points. If we connect our points, we see that it's a slanted line, and that would be our hypotenuse. A right triangle has 2 legs and 1 hypotenuse, so our other leg has to meet to make a 90-degree angle, because right triangles always have a 90-degree angle. And a 90-degree angle is always perpendicular to whatever it's meeting. So it makes 2 straight edges, basically. And the only point that does that here, that allows all those conditions to be true, would be -5, 1. The list below shows the heights in meters of 5 different buildings. What is the median height in meters of the building? Again, this is a question that we didn't go over because you're not going to be tested on it again. What you do for median is you simply order your numbers from least to greatest and then start crossing them out in pairs. So I would cross this one out and this one out as a pair. Then we have this one and this one. And then what's left over is 170, and that is your median or middle value of all the heights in that set. So the mode would be 180, and a mode means, a little quick lesson for you guys, a mode means whichever is the most frequent reoccurring number, so whichever number shows up most in the set. And the mean or the average is basically adding up all of your numbers and then dividing it up by the amount of numbers in the set. So we would add up everything here and then divide it by 5 because there's 5 numbers in the set. What algebraic equation represents 3 times the difference of a number x and 9 equals 15? So this is trying to get you to write your own equation with the information given. So we have to look at what it's telling us. So it says 3 times the difference of a number in x. So we know that the first thing that we have to do is x minus 9. So we have that over here. I'll rewrite it over here. And we know that 3 times the difference of a number and x would equal 15. So that means first we would have to subtract x minus 9 and then times it by 3 to equal 15. And that is how we get our answer for 12. Number 13. Roberto has a container with 4,200 milliliters of water. How many liters of water are in Roberto's container? So they give us a little legend here, a little key here. 1 liter equals 1,000 milliliters. There's 2 ways for you to do it. This is really messy right now, and I wish that I could erase everything, but it's not letting me do so, unfortunately. So what over here is I want you to focus on this part right now. This is the proportional way. So what we have here is 1 over 1,000. So 1 liter equals 1,000 milliliters. Since we have 4,200 milliliters, we would put our proportion of 4,200 milliliters on the bottom, right next to 1,000, because it's always going to be milliliters to milliliters, liters to liters. We cannot have apples here and apples here, and we cannot have like different things on different planes. It has to be equal in the way that we present it. So we're trying to find out how many liters there are. So what we do is simply put an x on top of for our numerator to know that we do not know that number. When we cross multiply, we're going to get 4,200 equals x times 1,000. And then when we isolate x, we end up dividing 1,000 on both sides, which gets us 4.2x. Now, because it's such a clean-cut problem, what you can do is just end up dividing 4,200 milliliters by 1,000, because 1,000 equals 1 liter, and you would still get the answer of 4.2, but putting it in a proportional way always helps you see what you're doing if you're not too sure with conversions. So, a circle has a radius of 18 inches. What is the circumference of the circle in terms of pi? This is something that you guys have not done, which is okay if you got it wrong. So circumference, you will get into 7th grade, but even if you do not know what in terms of pi meant, I still expected you guys to attempt it and put in the information that you already know. R is radius. So R is radius, which makes, I'm sorry if my mic keeps cutting in and out, but R equals radius. So we have a radius of 18 inches. So when we substitute it back into the formula, we have C equals 2 pi times 18. Now when there's a variable or symbol in between two coefficients, or even next to a coefficient, we know that means multiplication. So because of our associative property of multiplication, we know that even if we switch up the placement of our numbers, we're still going to get the same answer. So we could do 2 times pi times 18, and we'd still get the same answer as 2 times 18 times pi, or 18 times 2 times pi, or 18 times pi times 2. We'd still get the same answer. So just for our simplicity's sake, we're just going to move our coefficients to one side, right over here, and our pi to the other, and we're going to do 2 times 18, which is 36 pi. Now, at this point, you're just like, well, there is a answer right here that says 36 pi. Let me choose that, and that would be great. You would act on your intuition to actually choose that. Now, in terms of pi, it just simply means you don't have to multiply pi out with your coefficient at the last step. You could just leave it in terms of that, so there will always be pi in your answer. And even if you didn't know that, you can see that all your choices have pi right next to their coefficients. So you would just assume, hopefully, that there would be pi in your answer as well. So simplify the expression below, 7 squared minus 9 plus 1 to the 3rd power. We're going to use GEMDAS or PEMDAS, whichever one you like. I like GEMDAS because it incorporates all the grouping symbols. So what we would do first is make sure we calculate our exponents, which is 7 squared, which is 49, and 1 to the 3rd power, which is 1. And then what we do is our order of operations, it's going to be subtraction, addition, whichever one comes first in a linear pattern. So you won't just do addition first. You would do subtraction if it comes first, and then addition, or addition if it comes first, then subtraction. It's whatever comes first. So we're going to do 49 minus 9, which is 40, and then we're going to add 1, which is 41. So Micah and Denise are reading the same novel. Micah has 1/2 of the novel, and Denise has read 1/3 of the novel. How much more of the novel has Micah read than Denise? So what we will do is, again, we're going to have to use fractions to get our answer. Obviously, we're going to have to subtract because it says how much more of the novel has Micah read than Denise, so we know that Micah read more. So we have 1/2 as our first fraction, and then we subtract it by 1/3. We have to make them into like denominators because the fraction rules require like denominators for adding or subtracting. When we do so, and after all that computation, we get 1/6. So there are a lot of lines here, and it's because I can't erase anything, and this was from yesterday. I'm trying to like really speed it up so you guys only have around 20 minutes for the whole entire exam to review instead of an hour. But for this question, Mr. Brent has asked 6th grade students in his school to choose their favorite winter sports. His data are shown below in the graph. So according to this data in the graph, which statement is true? For these questions, you need to go through each and every choice to make sure you are understanding what the choice is saying and you're picking the right answer. So approximately 35 students chose skiing as choice A. You would go to skiing and see that it's not 35 at all. It's around 21 to 22. So that is the wrong answer. All of the sports were chosen by more than 20 students. So let's go through each and every single choice. So skating, there's only 15 students that chose that. So automatically we know no, but it's not more than 20 students. And even if you're unfamiliar with that, if you want to check more and more to make sure that the answer is correct, you just go towards to each and every bar on the bar graph and look at how many students pick that. But since there are 15 students for skating, it's less than 20, and that does not make B the right answer. The number of students who chose snowboarding is approximately twice as many as the number who chose skating. So that is the correct answer. As you can see here, I circled that. And that is because if we go to the snowboarding, we see that it is 30. And then it is twice as many as the number who chose skating. Skating, it's 15. 15 times 2 is 30. That makes it twice as much as skating. And for just clarity's sake, you want to go to choice D and just make sure that that choice is not correct. So the total number of students who chose skating and skiing is equal to the number of students who chose sledding. Sledding is around 59. If you add snowboarding and skating and skiing, that equals to around 36, and 36 does not equal 59, as you can see over here. So Marion fills a bucket with water. The capacity of the bucket is 2 quarts. What is the capacity of Marion's bucket in gallons? So what we would do here is we can use the big G